Welcome to Information Week's Valley View. I'm David Berlin.
And I'm Fritz Nelson.
Well, it's been about a month since we had the last show, and a lot has happened since then, but we've got some great guests to come on the show today. We're going to interview some really wonderful startups. We're also going to talk to some great companies that you've lined up for us here on the show this week. And Fritz, you and I have been talking a lot over the last a few weeks about the payment space. Pretty hot. I was the MC at an event down called Under the Radar, which is all about mobile payments. The space just seems like it's on fire with all sorts of innovation. And there's a company that you happen to like in that space. What's the name of that company?
Dwolla.
Don't know what it means, but sounds good.
Yeah, we're going to talk to them. I mean, I like to, buy my Starbucks coffee with my phone. I like to manage my finances and my travel with my phone. But I think we are on the cusp of an evolution in e-payments. And there are a lot of companies in this space, a lot of old companies, a lot of new companies. But what Dwolla is doing, I think, is promising to change how money is transferred, how money moves. This is really about the future of money, and that's why I'm so excited.
Future of money. This. So we'll have Ben Milne. He is the CEO of Dwolla on. After that, we're going to be bringing on Justin Kahn. Now, some of you may know Justin from Justin TV. He was the founder of that. He's here with a new company called Exec. I have no idea what that means either.
Well, they are a for-hire concierge service, so you can pay them by the hour, and they will, get done whatever needs to get done for you. And we actually tried them out, and we asked them to do some pretty interesting things.
So we have some video to show what happened.
That's right.
There. Okay. Well, hopefully we didn't ask them to go too far.
We'll see.
Okay. Well, next up after that, we're going to have Greg Sullivan. He is the senior product manager for Windows Phone 8. And why are they so exciting to have on the show?
Well, David, Windows Phone 8 just began shipping about 3 weeks ago, and to much fanfare, Windows Phone 7's been out for a while. This is the new Windows Phone 8. We're going to talk to Greg a little bit about how Windows Phone 8 is doing, about the devices, about what's new in Windows Phone 8, maybe even what's to come, if he'll talk about that as well, and what it means for the enterprise.
We also have a special interview conducted by EE Times' Sylvie Barrick. She'll be interviewing Dipti Vishani, who is the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Single Core Processors at Texas Instruments. And not only will they be talking about what's new at Texas Instruments in the way of technology, but also what it's like for a rock star female executive like Dipti to somehow balance both professional life and personal life. So it's a really great interview. Looking forward to seeing that take place. And then after comes the fun part of the show. We do what we call the elevator pitch portion, and that's where we give 3 hot startups, in this case SugarSync, ClearStory, and Kaggle, an opportunity to give their best 2-minute elevator pitch not only to you and me, but to those of you who are watching online, as well as to 3 judges that we'll be bringing up here on stage once the elevator pitch portion of the show starts. And then finally after that, we're going to bring on the iPad Mini, so to say.
That's
we're
right.
going to give one away. The last few shows, we've been giving away the Kindle Fires, but since then, the iPad Mini has come out. We decided to give one of those away to some lucky viewer in our online audience. So that will be at the very end of the show.
Well, that's the end. Let's get started.
That's right. So without further ado, let's bring on Ben Milne. He's the CEO of Dwolla. He is coming to us via Skype from Iowa. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so go ahead, Fritz.
Well, I think it might be good. I kind of teed this up a little bit, but we should talk about what is Dwolla for those people who don't know.
Yeah, Dwolla is a payment network that essentially bypasses traditional credit card fees and things like that. Essentially, Dwolla is a payment network. It's not a wallet like PayPal or Google Wallet or something like that. Our kind of premise is to create the ideal transaction, and we believe the ideal transaction exists without credit card fees, which are obviously quite costly that everyone has to deal with, and then opening up that network as a framework that you can tie into anything connected to the internet.
So maybe you can describe a little bit about how Dwolla works. I mean, I think a lot of people are familiar with things like PayPal, but what's different about Dwolla and how,
That's right. I'm especially curious about the workflow.
Yeah.
How does it work from beginning to end, and what makes it different compared to other solutions that are currently out there, such as PayPal?
That's a great question. So pretty much everybody in the payment space is focused really heavily on building on top of the credit card networks. So the credit card networks have all these different layers baked into the system over decades of innovation that now we're just building more stuff on top of. So when you build on top of old stuff, you just increase the cost. You don't actually drive it down. You eventually maybe get more buying power if you get enough volume, but you're essentially still paying for all the old legacy technology that's still stuck inside of it. So what Dwolla did was basically just stuck to a very simple philosophy that money comes out of your bank account at the end of the day, no matter how you pay. Credit card, debit card, no matter what, it always comes out of your bank account. So how do we connect directly to your bank account and allow you to move money via an API for any reason, anywhere, at any time? So what we did was we just started at the tech stack at the bank and just bypassed the entire credit card structure, and with it, all the fees associated with it. So that's really what we do that's different. And that can manifest itself in retail transactions, web transactions, pretty much any piece of software connected to the internet that can say, go get my money, okay, I got it, and give it to this person.
And is there something besides managing money? There's like a social aspect to it as well, too?
I'm sorry, my Skype connection might be a little bit wonky here. What was that?
The question is there's a social aspect to it, too, as well, right?
I think is what came through is the social aspect. So socially, you can send money from P2P, and you can send money through Twitter and Facebook, and that's really great for user acquisition. But to be quite honest, our core business right now is growing against the backs of replacing kind of checks and wire transfers. So, it's difficult to convert a consumer at a retail location and just buying a cup of coffee. But it's not so tough to show a marketplace the value, and if they need to distribute $100,000 right now to people who need to get paid, and they want to do that instantly, they can use our software at basically no cost. And on the receiving side, the person receiving payment, the only fee they would ever pay is a quarter, as long as it's over $10.
You mentioned that you bypass the credit card infrastructure, and I'm just thinking about it from a merchant's point of view. If I'm a merchant, I can take payment in two forms, either cash, and that's a real paper instrument, or I take some form of plastic, and pretty much all of them, whether it's a debit card or a credit card, goes through some sort of swiping process that then, of course, accesses that infrastructure that I think you're referring to. So does this take a third path that is not currently prevalent in the merchant space?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it can happen in a few different ways. The most common way is it's much like checking in on Foursquare. So you download the app, you select who you want to pay, you type in how much you want to pay them. Then once you make the payment, they essentially hand you your latte, your pants, or your gas, or whatever it is that you just bought. But the process looks a lot like Foursquare. The kind of mobile wallet integration side of things is where Dwolla is really another network. So if you enter in a 16-digit account number with Dwolla, you just OAuth into it, and you're authorized to basically bill that consumer for whatever it is they purchase, where Dwolla just becomes a really low-cost processing option for the wallet that it's integrated into.
You've also talked about, or Dwolla talks about, security, how this is more secure. Can you talk about how this is more secure than your regular credit cards or others of your competitors?
Yeah, I think the most basic thing is that when you use Dwolla, you're not leaving behind a 16-digit account number and an expiration date everywhere you buy a bagel. You're just not leaving behind that information. So when you take that information out of the transaction process, you also take, the risk of it being stolen away. No one's responsible for managing all this data they actually shouldn't have. They just know that they've been paid, and they know that they need to hand you your bagel. They don't really want the 16-digit number, and you don't really want them to have it. So if you could get that bagel without giving them that data, that'd be great. So when we obviously kind of architected some of the things at the beginning, one of the things that we feel like is baked into the credit card networks as far as cost is the actual cost of taking care of fraud. And a lot of that is just, identity theft and leaving behind data that shouldn't be left behind.
One of the questions that comes to my mind is how do you get traction here? It seems there's a bit of a chicken and egg. It sounds like the merchant has to support Dwolla. Obviously, the customer has to want to have the Dwolla client on his phone. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the key selling attributes from the merchant side is you're driving out the cost of the credit card infrastructure, so more money, maybe the merchant gets to keep more money. However, how does that incent the consumer to actually want to engage over that infrastructure versus transacting over the same credit card? Would the merchant, in your mind, does the merchant pass the savings along to the customer in the same way that some gas stations let you save money if you pay with cash?
Maybe restate the question.
Yeah, I think some models probably will. If you think about it in the most fundamental way, somebody has So I think that how do you solve the chicken and the egg issue, and what's kind of the way that you start approaching that, and do merchants actually incent consumers to utilize the platform? In one case, some merchants do. Some merchants have a few hundred basis points worth of new margin that they want to turn back into some sort of a reward for the consumer. But by and large, to be quite honest, you kind of stick to pain points that you can currently solve. And for us at the moment, it's much easier to convert somebody who wants to replace a check or not pay a wire transfer fee for some back-end B2B transaction, or where you're in a field paying a photographer for work that they're currently doing, where there is no way to accept a credit card or write a check if you don't have your checkbook there. So we actually start to see traction in a lot of those places. And network effects, where you start to hit kind of niche marketplaces like photographers, coffee shops. They turn into coffee wholesalers that turn into somehow mechanics, and the mechanics start paying one another in this roundabout kind of unpredictable fashion. And so kind of traditional ways of distribution have been really great for us, where you have these kind of niche markets. And now those things are becoming more accelerated by people leveraging the API in ways that we never would have originally thought of. So even though merchants and retail for us looks like a great marketplace, I think it's probably a marketplace that we're not going to be ubiquitously accepted inside of for quite some time. The barrier to entry to that marketplace is just pretty darn high.
What about the competitive set? You've got a company like an outfit like Fiserv. They bought Cash Edge. You've got Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, all getting into the P2P space. Your little Dwolla out there in Iowa. How do you compete with these big guys?
Well, doesn't matter where you are, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, we can offer the big guys real time, so there's no reason we have to compete with them. Co-opetition is a interesting term you hear a lot in payments, but our software can offer them real time. So getting the money to their consumers or getting money to the receivers faster is something that we can help them with. On the flip side, you can also take our APIs, which also do all the heavy lifting for actually making the payments for P2P functionality even easier. And so whether or not we're talking about taking that to market directly to the bank through providers like mFoundry that we just released with, we're finding that the bank doesn't necessarily always care about building the software themselves. They just want good software to solve pain points to their consumers that also allow them to open up new revenue streams. And they can take our APIs and do that right now themselves. They need a little bit different help than the average consumer would. But at the same time, I see a lot of these big banks as partners as well. They have an interest in moving money as fast as humanly possible. They just want to white label everything much more often.
And how will you deal with the inevitability that you'll be regulated, especially around privacy and security?
So as soon as a regulator is hired to regulate Dwolla directly, it will be probably one of the better days of my entire life. That means we've done very right. So, the other beautiful part about regulation is rules and it's in writing. It's kind of like a very clear line that you are not supposed to color outside of. So you hire really smart people to understand the regulation, to make sure you don't kind of color outside the line at all. You follow it, you clearly and openly communicate with regulators and anyone concerned about privacy and compliance. And those are conversations that we manage internally in-house, and then we have specialist attorneys for things that we can't handle ourselves. But by and large, we know the regulators well, and in terms of privacy, it's things like don't sell data. It's very simple. We have access to a lot of data, but we just don't sell it. The day we do that, we shoot ourselves in the foot. There's just certain things we just don't do.
Great. And how's it going? I mean, how do you have any data? How much money are you moving? Are you meeting your expectations so far? How do we judge your success?
Well, I will say this. Somebody was talking to me this morning about, we have kind of our 2-year kind of party at the end of this week. And so when we started, there was a couple of us trying to figure out if this was going to work. With full and part-time, we're at about 40 now. We're shipping in all 50 states. We have merchants in all 50 states. We're talking to everybody from the world's biggest banks to the world's biggest businesses about moving money that's crucial to our economy functioning. I think that the opportunity for us is really significant, and we're going to end this year in a really good spot. So we are extremely small in the marketplace, and it's important for us not to celebrate what we've done thus far, but appreciate the opportunity that we have at the moment and recognize how big the market is. The market to us is worth about $34 trillion annually. It's gargantuan. So regardless of what payment volume we're doing now, we have a long way to go.
All right, well, Ben Milne, CEO of Dwolla, we want to thank you very much for joining us here on Information Week's Valley View.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and thanks to the technical guys for working with me before. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we love our technical guys. They make all the Skype magic happen, bringing it to you right here live on Information Week's Valley View. It's great. So, Fritz, it's time to move on to the next segment of our show. Now, some of you may remember Justin Kahn. He was the founder of Justin TV. He is now the co-founder and CEO of a new company called Exec. And we decided to take Exec for a spin. We sent Boonsy Dickinson, one of our reporters, on by to try out the company.
With services like Uber, TaskRabbit, and Exec, you can basically get whatever you want delivered to you by touching a button on your cell phone. Exec is the service that lets you order help for $25 an hour. And Exec will do research, run errands, and even accomplish tasks for you. It'll wait in line for an iPhone 5, and even do higher level tasks like proposing to your lover. And Execs will even take care of your pets. When I was at the W Hotel, I messaged on the Exec app that I needed help with a video. So Lewis agreed to come, and he called me to finalize details.
Hey, this is Lewis from Exec. I just wanted to let you know that I picked up your task and that you need help shooting a video. Let me know how I can help.
Okay, can you come to the W and I'll explain everything when you get here.
Okay, cool. I'm in Sullivan right now. I'll be there shortly.
Convenience used to be driving to a fast food joint and picking up a burger, but today with your smartphone, at the touch of a button, you can get almost any service you want. So here with me is an Exec for $25 an hour. You can get an Exec to do almost anything you want him to.
Some people might think this makes me a horrible person, but I've been so busy in the last couple weeks that I had Lewis call my mom for me.
This is Lewis from Exec, but she wanted to let you know how much she loved you and she's sorry she missed your calls this week.
Who are you?
I'm with Exec. I'm a service that Boonsy's hired to help her out with her executive assistant chores.
I liked it. The thing is, Execs won't do everything. Like, they can't be your personal driver, and they definitely can't give you foot massages, as I learned.
Not sure if that's actually something we can do.
Most of the time, people use Exec for delivery, to clean their house, do research, and assemble IKEA furniture. But as you can see, there's plenty of room to get creative. In addition to their personal service, Exec offers a deal to companies who want to boost their employees' productivity. For now, Exec is only available here in San Francisco, but the company hopes to expand to other cities. Other services like TaskRabbit have a much bigger reach.
I'm almost at the end of the hour, and when it's done, I'll get an email sent to me, and my credit card will be charged. For Bite, I'm Boonsy Dickinson.
That's Sam I am. That's Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am.
That Boonsy will think of anything. That was quite a video there.
That's a great video.
Great executive concierge service. Justin Kahn, CEO and co-founder of Exec. Thanks for joining us here on Information Week's Valley View.
Thanks for having me. That was a great video. We should put that on our site.
No foot massage, though? Come on.
So the first obvious question is, you did Justin TV. What happened to that, and what pushed you on to try this out?
Sure. So Justin TV is actually still around and going strong. We have an office a couple blocks from here, and it's about 60 people now. What happened with Justin TV is we had been basically a live video site for many years where anyone could create whatever live content they wanted. And about 2 years ago, we started specializing into a couple projects. One of those is called Social Cam, which you might have heard of. It's basically like an Instagram for video from your iPhone. And we ended up spinning that off. Sorry, we spun it off and sold it to Autodesk this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the other project that's still going strong within Justin TV, and now it's what we primarily focus on, is called Twitch. It's basically like ESPN for video games. And so kind of as Twitch became more and more what we focused on internally online, we decided to make my co-founder the CEO, he was the one who really drove that push towards gaming. And we kind of pivoted the company towards that, and that's what we focus on primarily.
Two are completely unrelated now. You're in the executive concierge service, and I guess looking at the video that Boonsy just did for us, I guess my main question is, where does technology come into play? Because it seemed like she was on the phone at the beginning arranging for the services, and technology had very little to do with it.
Yeah, so technology is really the infrastructure that matches the people. That's the primary secret sauce behind Exec. So what we do is, we're a service where you can get any errand you want done. We have people doing grocery pickups and deliveries.
Building IKEA furniture.
Building IKEA. Cleaning is a big one, and we just launched our own cleaning service. And basically, what we have is technology and an algorithm where you put in your job on our site, and we match you with someone in real time. So in just hopefully, it takes about 2 minutes on average. We find someone to pick up your task and start. And there's no selection, no bidding. It's a flat $25 an hour. We pair you with someone who has the skill sets that can do your job, and also is as close as possible to your job so they can get started right away.
So sort of the response time of Uber, which is a car service where you just put it in and they show up within a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Coupled maybe with the sort of task association that you see with Amazon's Mechanical Turk, only it's not a knowledge worker task, it's more of a physical task.
Exactly. It's mostly things that have to do with the real world, where you would want someone present to get something physical and drop it off for you, or house cleaning is a really popular vertical for us.
And how's it going? I mean, you've been around for what, a little over a year?
It's been about 10 months.
10 months.
Since we started the company, and about 8 months since we launched the product.
Okay, and how's the uptake been?
It's good. It grows every month, and we're in San Francisco right now, and we're just starting our plans to expand outside of, to the rest of the Bay Area and beyond. So it's taken a little longer than I thought it would, but we've worked out most of the logistical kinks, I think. And now
what's the hardest part of that? Is finding people to fulfill the service, or is it developing a customer base?
Yeah, well, unlike Justin TV, there's this very real world component. So there's a lot of how do you get all these people on the platform accepting work, and how do you make sure there's quality control? How do you pay them all out? We actually use Dwolla for that.
Okay.
So there's all these kind of back end things that the customer doesn't think about and have to see that we've had to figure out over the last 8 or 9 months. And
Boonsy mentioned at least one competitor there. How do you stack up against a TaskRabbit, for example?
Yeah, so our goal is really to be the easiest thing possible. And the way I think about our company is we want to be like Amazon Prime, where you just go on, you trust the brand of Amazon. You think they're going to give you maybe not the best price, but a very reasonable price. It's going to show up for you in 2 days, and you know immediately whether you can find what you want or not. And so with other services, we think there's a lot more work that you have to invest up front, and it takes maybe longer to get a response. And to me, whenever I was thinking about outsourcing something, the thought of basically doing work, like mental work, to save myself from physical work was it wasn't a good trade-off. What I want to do is just put in money and save myself from mental and physical work. And so we try to make the simplest thing possible that will just work without you having to do very much.
Isn't this better suited, though? You mentioned cleaning as a service, but the people that I know that need cleaning done, generally speaking, have somebody come on a periodic basis, want the same person to come each time, develop a relationship with them. It would seem that this is more suited to one-off tasks as opposed to repetitive tasks. Yeah. Or you could break, if cleaning became a big one, you could break that out as a vertical, a separate site altogether, just to deal with matchmaking on the cleaning front.
That's exactly what we've done, actually. And so we saw people would continuously put in cleaning tasks, but like you said, it was, what we had with Exec was better suited for one-off tasks. But cleaning was such a big, strongly requested thing. We said, we could make a better workflow for this. And so we have a separate worker pool of people who are, cleaners basically, and they, the cleaners on Exec bring their own supplies through our, the cleaning system, and it's, you can recur it basically, like you said, you can make it happen every week or every other week, and so that's what we found was there was this massive demand for this one vertical, and we said this could be its own service, and we could do an even better job.
What's the craziest thing you guys have been asked to do?
So in the very beginning of Exec, in the first couple weeks, actually, when we were in our beta period, one of our beta users, this was in February, he used us to paint artwork for his girlfriend for Valentine's Day.
Nice. Can I pay to have his mic turned off?
Well, it's
or my fingernails painted, just not the color of his choice.
Yeah, definitely. Those are definitely all on the menu. You can get someone and they can come here and do whatever you guys want.
Oh, great.
$25 an hour.
Yep, $25 an hour.
Okay, great. Well, Justin Kahn, CEO and co-founder of Exec, also of Justin TV fame. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
I believe we actually have a mug for you, an Information Week Valley View mug. We give that to all of our guests who come on to the set and join us for the show. So that's it.
Cool.
So thanks for joining us. When we come back, we'll have Greg Sullivan, Senior Product Manager for Windows Phone 8 at Microsoft, talking about the latest, greatest mobile operating system.
When you implement a BYOD policy, your users love you. When your users love you, they write a 140-character ode to you on Twitter. When your users write odes to you on Twitter, the CEO gets jealous. When the CEO gets jealous, he transfers you to that data center project in Amarillo, Texas. Don't get transferred to Amarillo, Texas. Keep your users on BlackBerries.
Once, he had to retrieve a lost file from the cloud. A real cloud. His organ donor card also lists his keyboard. He's a Mac, not a PC. But he's also a PC, so don't get any ideas. His sideburns are wireless routers.
I don't always answer my phone, but when I do, I prefer Android.
He is the most interesting IT guy in the world.
Stay connected, my friend.
He has a like button. You can just imagine where it's hidden. His iPad plays Flash because he told it to. He runs big data in memory, his own. He can cool entire data centers with the touch of his hand. He is the most interesting IT guy in the world.
Stay connected, my friend. When Microsoft forces you to upgrade Windows, your old applications break. When your old applications break, your boss thinks you're not doing your job. When your boss thinks you're not doing your job, you get fired. When you get fired, you go work for a startup. When you go work for a startup, you wear skinny jeans to the office and think you're cool. When you think you're cool, you go to raves and take ecstasy. When you go to raves and take ecstasy, you get bad tattoos. Don't get bad tattoos. Switch to Apple's Mountain Lion.
Welcome back to Information Week's Valley View. We're back here with the Senior Product Manager of Windows Phone 8 from Microsoft, Greg Sullivan. Greg, thanks for joining us on the show.
My pleasure.
Great to have you here. You don't have a tattoo on your arm that has the Microsoft logo on it, do you?
I don't, but I heard there's a foot massage that I'm going to get later on.
That's right, yeah. You just have to go into Exec to get that. So very good. Glad you're watching the show while you're waiting here. So great to have you on the show. Boy, oh boy, a lot of news in the last few weeks. You not only maybe doing some stuff with Windows Phone 7, but also you've got a bunch of phones here that are representative of the newest operating system, which is Windows Phone 8, right?
Yeah, we just launched Windows Phone 8 within the last couple of weeks, and we're really excited about the great wave of new devices that we've got coming out. Nokia, HTC, Samsung, among others. It's pretty exciting because we've had some things that are true about Windows Phone.
You carry all of these with you.
I do. I love to, test them all out. It's one of the fun parts of my job.
Impress people at airports.
Yeah, I've been asked, how many phones do you really need? But it turns out that one of the things that's always been true about Windows Phone is it really is the most personal smartphone that you can get. It represents the things you care about and puts them right here on the start screen. That's even more true with Windows Phone 8. And in
we can
addition to
hold
the great
one up
hardware.
here, and one with the start screen.
Yeah,
up
here we go. So
hold it up for the camera. I don't know if we can see that right there. So, yep.
One of the changes that we've made with Windows Phone 8 is that all of the live tiles, which bring all this information that you care about right on the start screen, are now customizable. So you can select from a range of sizes, 3 sizes for each tile. And really, it brings a powerful degree of customization to make that start screen even more yours. So where other smartphones show you a grid of icons that you can click to launch apps, the start screen on Windows Phone really comes alive with all the information that you care about, bringing you closer to the stuff that you're really interested in. It's a different approach.
Now, there are a lot of new features in Windows Phone 8, and we'll get to that, but I do want to address the fact that you have different phones here. So we've got the Nokia, the 920, and the 8.
What was I holding up there?
Yeah,
that's a Nokia Lumia 920.
That's
it's
the 920, okay.
An amazing device, incredibly brilliant screen there, clear black display, high def display, supports wireless charging, has an incredible camera. They've got optical image stabilization in their camera, which really does incredible things in addition to the low light images.
What else we have here?
That's the Samsung Ativ S. Not currently ranged in the US, but that one is also available. And it's got a huge 4.8-inch screen, really thin and light, expandable storage, nice 8-megapixel camera. And so one of the nice things about this is you really have a range of choices and styles and colors, obviously. One of the things that the manufacturers are doing is really tying into this live tile design and having hardware that is well integrated and kind of represents that. As you can see, the 8X from HTC is another great example of that.
And there's a minimum hardware requirement for these manufacturers for Windows Phone 8. What are the basic specs they have to have?
Well, these all have a powerful Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor, dual-core microprocessor. They've got great high-res displays and RAM and storage. So we have minimum specs with respect to the sensors that these devices have, so that we can ensure that every Windows Phone will deliver a great experience. You won't have some that are running on underpowered hardware.
That's right.
Which is something you see in other platforms.
Now, we also noticed that the price points of these are coming in a bit lower for a 2-year plan than competitors, say Google and Apple phones. Is there some subsidy going on for Microsoft through the carriers, or how does that work?
Well, I don't think there's anything different. I think we're in a position of a challenger in this space, which is exciting for us. But one of the things you're seeing is a really aggressive outreach by the OEMs and the mobile operators to bring these devices to market, to establish this ecosystem. They really keyed on the fact that we have a different approach to the user experience that's completely innovative and different than what's out there. And so I think there's a lot of aggressive offers going on.
$99, $99.99 for a 2-year plan. And I just want to make note, Sprint's the only outlier. Are you guys working to try to get them to carry these as well?
We've got nothing to announce today, unfortunately, but certainly we're continuing.
Nobody's
to
watching. You can tell us.
We're of course, we have a great relationship with Sprint. We're continuing to work with them. They've carried Windows Phone 7 devices, and we're continuing to work with them and look forward to moving on with their relationship.
One last question on the devices, at least for me, is on the Nokia side. You guys have made a big investment. Nokia seems to get some of the features first. How do you walk that fine line between Samsung and HTC and Nokia and make everybody happy?
Well, our relationship with Nokia is unique in certain ways, but we provide we have unique relationships with all of our OEM partners. I mean, HTC has been a long time purveyor of Windows mobile devices and Windows phones, and so they've really have a close relationship all the way up and down the chain. Samsung is doing some really innovative work, so we have unique relationships with all of them, and they all understand that. Our platform runs across a range of devices. The interesting thing to me is that the result of the Nokia relationship has been, in some sense, a renewed interest and a deeper interest among some of our existing partners. So it's been really exciting. I think the results are clear with the exciting hardware that's coming out this fall.
You mentioned common platform across multiple devices, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the larger tablet that's sitting here. So why did you bring the tablet? What does this represent?
Well, I think one of the things that, let me wake it back up here. One of the things that folks who use Windows Phone will recognize is the live tile interface is something that we're bringing to Windows as well. It's interesting in a time when
this is a tablet. This is an RT. One of the new.
This is actually an Intel device, so it's running Windows 8.
Windows 8. Okay.
And so but one of the things that I wanted to highlight is the similarity between the user experience. So one of the things that folks have known about Windows Phone for a while is that we had a dramatic and different approach to how you use a smartphone. These live tiles, bringing information right to the start screen. has been very well reviewed and well regarded, and people who buy a Windows Phone have really liked it. But we've had, in some sense, an awareness problem, and not as many people have known about the different approach we take. I think Windows 8 and the advent of Windows adopting essentially the same live tile interface is going to generate more awareness for the benefit of that approach that brings information.
Especially useful in devices that have a touch screen where you can do what you can do on a smartphone.
Exactly. Yeah. So the user interaction model is similar. The gestures, the idea that I can swipe and move through these and launch things. One of the other things that's true though is that at a time when Windows Phone has taken essentially the engine of Windows 8. We've taken the kernel, the underlying operating system architecture, and delivered on a phone. Windows has adopted the interface from Windows Phone. So there's a real synergy here in terms of not just the user experience, but how your content flows across these devices.
What do you say to critics? Because there have been a lot of people who've been critical of that move, especially on the Windows platform, where some users are a little bit confused by the tile interface, and there's two ways to do everything.
Well, there's change is often hard. I think one of the things that we're seeing is as people realize how this interface works, especially on a touch device, the benefits are really profound. And when you see a Windows Phone and a Windows Slate or tablet, an Xbox, for example, all sharing the same kind of paradigm, and you see your content flow across all of these devices. If I take a picture on my phone, it automatically gets loaded up to SkyDrive and appears right here on my start screen on my tablet. I can access it from my Xbox. My music flows across all of these devices. Right. If I start a Word document on my Windows 8 Slate, it automatically shows up in the Office Hub on my Windows Phone in my recent document list. So we're really connecting. Both, we have this user experience that spans them, but also a substrate that connects them seamlessly. So as a user, your stuff just shows up where you want it. And that's going to be a pretty powerful proposition.
I want to talk about some more. You've touched on some of the features of Windows Phone 8. There are probably a couple others that maybe we want to touch on, like Rooms and DataSense, but I also want to move to the enterprise side as well, because that, what you've painted here is a picture that, there could be a codependency on your mobile and desktop and laptop devices. But start with some of the other cool features in Windows Phone 8.
Well, I think one of the great features is that you mentioned is Rooms. So I'm going to try to do my upside down demo here. But one of the great things about Rooms is that we've had this idea in Windows Phone where, there we go, where the People Hub brings together all of the context, the people I care about, and shows me all of the ways I can communicate with them. So whether I want to post on your Facebook wall or see what you're saying on Twitter or send you a text message, I don't have to think about the application first. I think I just want to send you, I want to contact you, and then all of those methods are available. In Windows Phone 7.5, we added a new feature called Groups, which let you filter down all of your contacts and say, you know what, I just want to see what's going on with my family. So I'll check in with them in that group. Well, we've taken that a step farther in Windows Phone 8 and had this feature called Rooms. And what Rooms does is it brings together a set of people that you want to have a more intimate sharing relationship with, and it brings them together in this virtual space where we can have group chat, and I can check in with my location. We can share calendars. We can all edit that calendar jointly. We can share photos and notes. So it's one place where we create this virtual four walls where everything we share and say, because sometimes you may want to post something with a group of folks that you don't want to share with the entire world on Facebook, for example. So if I have my family or Friday night poker buddies or my team at work, and we want to create a space where we can kind of have a more intimate sharing relationship, Rooms does that. But it also ties into all of the other social networking that we're doing, so I can incorporate that as well. But Rooms really creates this space where we can share things.
Of course, you could look at some of the competing operating systems, for example, Android, right? And what they do is they say, well, you can organize your friends based on circles as a part of Google+. So how do you respond to that? Because actually you have to go to someone else for a social network, because that is sort of a natural way of doing it, saying I've got my social network and here's how I organize everybody on my social network. It would be great for that organizational principle to bubble up into all of my devices and keep it in sync not only in the cloud but on the devices.
Yeah, and we do integrate with social networks well and incorporate that very well into the People Hub on the phone. I think also there's an interest among people to have a way that is kind of more personal and intimate. and to have control over that and to not necessarily have all of that managed by a third party.
Okay.
And I've made the case that Microsoft stands in maybe the best position to knock RIM out of the enterprise. So let's talk about some of what Microsoft has done in Windows Phone 8 to make it more enterprise ready.
Well, I think one of the there are many benefits that we get from having this new Windows engine, the Windows 8 engine underneath the hood here. Among them are full device encryption, enhanced security, secure boot. We've talked about things like private device or application distribution for enterprises. One of the new features that we have is this thing called the Company Hub. And so I can go in and as an enterprise, create, we've got our fictional Contoso IT company here, and I can create a hub, an application that presents applications and allows users to download them, but also in the same panoramic view lets me have a letter from the CEO, information about help and support, anything that the IT department wants to provide for me, including other internal line of business applications and content. So the ability for enterprises to, not in a public marketplace, but in a private distribution internally, deliver their own applications, manage the devices, and have access to their content, and have all of their users have access to that content, is one of the new features that we have as well.
What about things like Skype and voice over IP and I'll tack on a question there. Are there any plans to integrate that with, say, Google Talk?
Well, the way that Skype works today is we've enhanced the platform in Windows Phone 8 to do a better job of fully supporting voice over IP applications and the multitasking that's required in there. That's another inherent benefit that we get from being on this new architecture. And it's true that we've in fact platformized that voice over IP capability. So not just Skype, but any VoIP application can deeply integrate with the contacts database and become fully a part of the communications mechanism of the phone, so that your contact list lets you Skype or other VoIP applications. Really, and it's not specific just to Skype. We've kind of platformized that capability in the same way that we have with speech, for example. Any application provider can write to our speech APIs, enabling any application to be fully speech enabled. It's not just something that only the operating system has. So we've taken that same approach with VoIP, and that's something that Skype has taken advantage of with a great native Skype app that they're delivering, and any VoIP third party can do that as well.
We've long made the argument that, and many people have, that the volume of apps is not the game. It's whether you have the right ones. But there are still a few gaping holes in the App Store. Google has there's not a lot of Google stuff in the App Store. YouTube isn't there. Google Plus is not there. I think maybe Google Drive is coming. MLB is missing. A few of the kind of major ones. So
well, we do have a YouTube app. I think that's people are a little confused on that. It operates a little bit differently. It integrates with the native media player, so that when you have that installed and search and find a YouTube video, it'll actually launch and integrate with the built-in media pipeline and capability of the phone. So I think that's where some of that confusion arose from. But there are a couple of apps. We're as I said, we're a challenger, and we're really excited about the progress that we've seen in the roughly 2 years since we've launched. We've got over 120,000 applications in the marketplace, including the overwhelming majority of all of the popular apps. There's a couple that we just announced that we're excited about. Words with Friends, Pandora. There's a couple that are still out there, and we've got folks working hard to get those on our platform. One of the other things that having Windows 8 adopt a similar user experience and have some of the same reuse of code, for example, is going to help. We announced the other day that there were 40 million Windows 8 licenses sold, so I think that's going to help create critical mass around the platform. And once people begin
You're saying from a developer perspective, I developed something for Windows 8. There's a lot of Windows developers out there. They're 99% of the way there in terms of...
Well, I would hesitate to, depending on the application, put a percentage on it, but there is a meaningful amount of code reuse, the tools familiarity, the notion that this is really part of one platform, that your phone and your tablet and your PC, and in fact the servers at work and services in the cloud and the web and even your Xbox game console are not discrete platforms, but really part of a broader platform that users expect authentication to span them. They expect their content to flow.
Right.
And that's what we're delivering now with Windows Phone 8 and with Windows 8.
Well, I'll tell you, everybody I know who's got a Windows phone actually happens to love it, and they say "ha-ha" to me. So
that's what we're finding as well.
Yeah. I like this yellow one. Thank you very much.
I think you should try that out.
Okay, well, Greg Sullivan, Senior Product Manager for Windows Phone 8 at Microsoft. Thank you very much for joining us on Information Week's Valley View. And we have a mug there for you.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep, so that's for you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Okay, when we come back, we're going to, we're going to go straight to an interview that Sylvie Barrick of EE Times did with Dipti Vashani. She is the GM and Vice President of Single Core Processors at Texas Instruments. Sylvie interviewed her not only about what it is that Texas Instruments is doing that's new and cool, but also what it's like for a female executive in a fast segment of the market to be balancing both work and personal life.
The semiconductor industry is very much a man's world, but that doesn't faze Texas Instruments' Dipti Vashani, the high-flying vice president and general manager of the firm's single-core processing unit. A self-proclaimed geek, Vashani oversees a unit of hardware and software engineers while championing TI's pet project, the BeagleBone. The BeagleBone is a cheap, open-sourced embedded system development platform based on TI's processor and running Linux.
The intention behind the BeagleBone is to trigger their imaginations, to give them the ability to run with their imaginations. And so there's absolutely none. In fact, a lot of the investment that goes around BeagleBone, and Satara with the AM335X is targeted at low enough cost and removing those barriers so that new startup companies and big companies where you have engineers inside of large multi-million-dollar companies that have a cool idea can get a BeagleBone and try it out and show it to their management and say, look what I can do.
Do you consider yourself a geek?
Yeah, I do. I think at heart I am, because the stuff that excites me is I think from a normal. I think geeks are cool. So I just how things work, how things are created, how chip design is done. I mean, you think about this. This is stuff you can only see through a microscope. And we're creating technology through that, where iPhones are working through that. It's amazing to me. That stuff intrigues me. And if that's what you call a geek, then that's what I am.
So how does Vashani feel about being one of only a handful of women to make it to the top of the semiconductor space?
It hasn't fazed me. I don't let that. I grew up with brothers around, and so being around boys is never intimidated me or made me think that there was something wrong. And so I fit right in, and I didn't have an issue with it. Would I have liked to have seen more women participate and see how cool this is and that it's not limited to men? Yes. As I see, I have two little girls, an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I look at them, they have no barriers. The world is at their feet. They can do anything, science, math, art, photography, whatever it is that they dream of is available to them now. And there are a lot of initiatives that TI participates in, and educating women and working with colleges such that we can share with them the passion that women and men can have for this field, right? And it's educating women to see that this field is exciting and fun, and it's something that they could do just the same, and doing it at a very young age.
For many women, the prospects of balancing pregnancy and raising children coupled with a high-powered job can seem daunting, if not impossible.
It's not. Those are the most difficult times throughout the career, and I think I've got the luxury of working with TI, because during those times I couldn't have picked a more supportive company to help me get through them. So with my first baby, I left here saying I don't know when I'll come back. I know I'm only allowed, the law is 12 weeks, but I don't know. I've never had a baby before, so I don't know what's going to happen when she's here and when I can come back and I'll be ready to come back. And they had the time and patience to allow me to take that time.
Maintaining the balancing act requires skill, but what is Vashani's life like on a day-to-day basis?
You know, that was funny because that was one of the questions I think Amy had put on there, and there is no typical day of my life. And that's the beauty of it. I think, you know, I get the question all the time, how do you balance it? And it's a daily balance. And sometimes I'll be in a customer dinner, and the only time I can get to them with all the time zone transitions is to walk away from the customer so that I can call them before they go to bed. And the wonderful thing is, if you're just honest about it, I've got to take a phone call real quick. I'll be right back. My kids are about to go to bed. No one has a problem with that. It's just being honest and saying it's okay. It's okay to walk away from a customer dinner to go have a call with your daughter. And everyone's human, and they understand that element of it. So I do talk to them every day when I'm on the road. And when I'm at home, I drop them off at school every day. So I don't get into the office until about 8:30. I do my conference calls on the drive-in. Yes, I have Wi-Fi, so wireless. So I'm not talking on the phone the whole time through. And then I go home and have dinner with them every evening. Like I said, today I focus on getting this job done the best of my abilities. And whether that's in my cards or not, I'm going to kick butt here and see what happens.
That was Sylvie Barrick of our sister site, eetimes.com, interviewing Dipti Vashani, the Vice President and General Manager for Single Core Processors at Texas Instruments. Now comes one of the fun parts of our show, Fritz, where we get to get a bunch of startups here to give their 2-minute elevator pitch to you and I. Very fast-paced, not only to you and I, but to those members who are on out there in our online audience, and also to 3 judges who are all reporters for Information Week that we brought up to our judging stand. I want to introduce them going from our left to right. We've got Tom Claiborne. Hi, Tom. Michael Endler in the middle, and Charlie Babcock over there on the right. Thanks for joining us, guys. We got some really serious judging for you to do, so you got to put your thinking caps on. And Fritz, who is the first company who's going to join us up here for their 2-minute elevator pitch?
Well, we're going to start. We got a little bit of big data going on here, and so we're going to start with ClearStory, and joining us is Sharmila Mulligan, who is the CEO of ClearStory. And
so
we're finding she's
Sharmila,
going to
come on up
here and sit in our hot seat there. I'm going to give you the mic, and I'll give you a second to get settled here, and we're going to start your 2 minutes right now.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. So just a little bit about ClearStory. Everyone in the big data space, as you know, is talking about the scale of data and all the challenges associated with analyzing and processing data at scale. What we're focused on at ClearStory is not just dealing with the issues of data at scale, but more importantly also dealing with the issues related with analyzing diverse data that's coming from disparate sources, both your internal corporate sources as well as third-party sources. So if you look at what's been happening over the last 5-7 years, there's been a huge surge in the number of corporate sources of platforms that companies have inside of an organization, including the introduction of new big data platforms and platforms like Hadoop that are proliferating across the enterprise. In addition to that, what's equally interesting is the number of external sources of data that are now available for organizations to tap into. And specifically, if you look at external sources, there are about 7,000 open data APIs today that didn't exist 5 years ago. If you looked back 5 years ago, there were less than 100. These open data APIs, span things like Netflix, Twitter, Facebook, Google, so on and so forth. And there's a wealth of data trapped inside of all of those different external sources, combined with all kinds of premium sources as well. So what we at ClearStory are focused on is not just solving the problem of analyzing data at scale, which is obviously a big one in itself, but allowing you to cross-pollinate data from multiple sources, both internal and external, processing that at scale, understanding how to bring in high-value data from third-party sources, bring it in with your own corporate data, and drive what you call a converged analysis that includes your own private data as well as external data. This is an area that we see is going to be incredibly important moving forward.
All right.
Great.
Well done, Sharmila. So let's turn it over to our judges. We'll start off on the left side there. Tom, what'd you think?
Well, I mean, big data obviously is a very hot area. It reminds me of...
We can pull the mic closer to yourself so that... Yep.
Big data obviously is a very hot area. It reminds me of search a couple of years ago. I would like to have heard a little bit more about, specific about what you're going to be able to do. I mean, what's the ROI, and get some specific examples of why, as a company, I would want to use that. So I think I'd like to hear a little bit more, so I'm gonna say 7.
Michael?
My reaction was kind of similar. I think that you expressed really clearly why big data is a big deal, and you provided all of that context. And in the last 30 seconds or so, you kind of steered it back toward what you guys are doing specifically. And the idea of converged analysis sounds intriguing, but if you pinned me down and asked me to explain what that was, I'm not sure I could do so. So I would have liked a little bit more about specifically what you guys are bringing and why someone would use your product. So I would also go 7.
Charlie.
Very good, quick presentation in the 2 minutes allowed. I was curious whether you're a NoSQL type of analysis system or relational database.
You'll get a chance to answer.
You'll get a chance.
And it sounds like you're both. Given the capabilities of what you can do, that's good. That's perhaps the right way to go. But I'd still like to know more about how much do you need to know about formulating a query to use this system, that kind of thing, because that's a crucial user interface issue.
So the way we run this format is the presenter gets 2 minutes, the judges get to say what their scores are, and Charlie, do you have a score here? A 6, okay, so 2 7s and a 6. And Sharmila, you have 30 seconds to respond to what you just heard.
All right, so let me get to Charlie's question first. So firstly, as far as the different data sources, we address both structured and unstructured data, and we buffer you from having to know any of the technical complexities of interfacing with those sources. So the user model that we are providing, which comes with our web client, is specifically designed to make it very easy for a business user to extract data from both corporate sources and external sources and buffer you from having to write SQL or any of the MapReduce or any of those frameworks. So it is a very different approach as it relates to that.
Okay. All right, great. Sharmila, thanks very much for joining us on Valley View here. Go ahead. You can make room for the next guest.
Thanks, everyone.
You know, Fritz, I was just thinking about this. One of the things that makes this format so good is we've got 3 reporters here, and they're getting pitched all the time on stories. Obviously, they can't write about every single technology that's out there. And so this 2-minute pitch is actually really critical in terms of being able to explain what you do in a short period of time in a way that a reporter will immediately grasp onto it and say, hey, that's something we need to do a story about.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, we hear this story a lot too, the story that Clear Story is telling a little bit more lately in making big data more consumable for the business user. And you hear a lot about this notion of the data scientist as well. So, we're starting to hear that pitch quite a bit, and it's good to hear more of it.
Okay, so we're 1 down, 2 to go. Who's the next guest?
We're going to stick with big data, and we've got kind of a different approach here with Kaggle, and joining us is their CEO, Anthony Goldblum. So Anthony will make his way to the hot seat here and explain to us what Kaggle does, and your 2 minutes begins right now.
So data science is really buzzy, and big data is really buzzy, as we all know, and for good reason. There aren't too many business problems that you can't solve, that data can't really help to solve. The big problem that companies are finding is they can't find data scientists. And even if you can find data scientists, you have no way to know, everyone calls themselves a data scientist now. You have no way to know how good a data scientist they are, nor do you know whether their skills are the right match for the sorts of problems you face. So Kaggle's solution to this is we host data mining competitions. So a company will put a data set up on our website. We have 65,000 data scientists signed up, and those data scientists compete to produce the best solution on a given problem. We host 2 types of competitions. We host public competitions that are available to everybody. Anyone can come to the site and try out a public competition, and we use public competitions to basically get a sense for who are the strongest data scientists on our platform. We then invite them to sort of private projects and private competitions, and they work on more sensitive, more commercial data sets behind the scenes. Now, the sorts of use cases, I mean, we've worked with Allstate, for instance, on predicting insurance claims. We've worked with companies like Merck on predicting which chemical compounds are most likely to treat a certain illness or have bad side effects. Yeah, I think I'm done. A bit ahead of time.
All right, that's fine. We don't mind.
We'll give you 25 seconds to the next.
I thought I was long-winded.
Very well done. In a minute and a half, basically. So, judges, what do you think of Anthony's presentation? Yeah, go ahead. Steal the show there.
Well, I think it's a fascinating idea. I mean, a lot of companies I've seen have taken up the idea of competitions, and it's a great way to find resources without putting out a lot of effort to do so. My question would be, how motivated are the data scientists to actually participate in this? I mean, if you are really, think you're a great data scientist, why would you necessarily submit to this competition? Wouldn't your attitude be more like, well, they can come to me because I'm, the guy everybody needs or the gal everybody needs? So I'd like to, learn a little bit more about how well it's been working, but I think the idea is, a very strong one. So I'm going to say, if I could find an 8 here. 8.
All right. Okay, Michael.
Yeah, I thought it sounded like a pretty cool idea. It reminds me a little bit of the way the security community operates, and they'll run competitions to root out problems, and it's very collaborative. I do wonder also, like Tom said, if you have very highly qualified people, how you incentivize them to participate. But if you've got tens of thousands of them, presumably you guys are doing something that's working there. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9.
All right, nice score there. Charlie, what do you think?
Well, I'm curious what you use as a data set when somebody has a specific private research project, and how do you keep that data secure from the inquiring minds that wish to work with it? And to me, that's kind of a big stumbling block here. I don't quite understand how you've overcome that. So it's the wisdom of crowds when the crowd is a set of data scientists. Very good, but how you make it work, the details of that, I'm very much up in the air on. I'm going to give it my favorite number.
6. It's turning out to be a tough judge today. The Simon Cowell of Information Week. Anthony, you have 30 seconds to respond to that.
So I think I'll respond to, I got 2 questions on what are the motivations of our data scientists. Well, let me start by saying I should have actually mentioned this. We've run 150 projects, and every single one of them has outperformed the best a company was able to do themselves, and generally by somewhere between 10% and 300%. What we sometimes find is a company's taken a certain path, and that path was the wrong direction, and opening it up to a crowd sends them in the right direction. Turns out, the Dan Pink book Drive is all about what motivates people, and it turns out that it's not only money that motivates really clever, creative people.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We see a lot of companies out there doing competitions, a lot of hackathons, for companies that do developer-based services, and Anthony's right. People want to win those hackathons. There's some prestige that's associated with winning those hackathons, and sometimes that prestige lends itself to career opportunities that come later, because the hottest developers, remember I used to do Mashup Camp, and the guys who run those competitions ended up getting jobs at companies like Google.
Yeah, and the field of data science is growing, as Anthony said, is a little buzzy right now, but the need for data scientists, and I talk to CIOs all the time who, they're looking for them. Well, here, there's a way for them to make a name for themselves potentially as well.
Okay, our third and final guest is?
We're going to move from big data to cloud, and we've got SugarSync here, and the CEO of SugarSync, Laura Yeases. Laura is going to jump to the hot seat here, and SugarSync has a new version 2.0 out here, and I suspect she'll talk about that. So your 2 minutes begins right now.
Great. Well, thanks for having me on. SugarSync is the most powerful, flexible cloud solution for consumers and small businesses. With SugarSync, all you need to do is install SugarSync, sync your data from your Mac or PC to the cloud, and then it's securely backed up and accessible from all of your devices. So what makes SugarSync special? There's a lot of cloud services out there. Well, what's special about SugarSync is that we let you work the way you want to work. You don't have to put your data into some special syncing box. That's not how you organize your data. We let you choose your existing folders, your documents, your desktop, pictures, music, and sync those to the cloud. It's much more convenient. It allows you to get a lot of data easily into the cloud, and then you choose what you want on which device. Now, our customers tend to have a lot of data in the cloud. So one of the great new things about our 2.0 version is that we have search built in. And because you have all this data from different devices, it's almost like having Spotlight or Google Desktop Search across all of your computers. As you mentioned, we have this brand new 2.0 release. In addition to search, we have this nice new client UI, which allows you to just very easily get your data into the cloud. All you need to do is drag and drop your folders onto the SugarSync client, and then your data is automatically in the cloud. Also, we've highlighted social. So SugarSync is a great way to collaborate, share data with your friends and family and coworkers. And now, just like with getting your data into the cloud, sharing is drag and drop. So all you need to do is drag your file or folder onto your contact name, and then the data is shared with them very easily and securely. SugarSync is the best solution for business, but it's also a great solution for consumers. It's also a great solution for businesses. We have features that allow multiple people within a company to share an account, collaborate easily on their projects, and they have all the ease of use benefits of the consumer version.
All right.
Right on time.
Wow. You must have rehearsed that, didn't you? Just a couple times.
Driving up here with my timer in the car.
Driving up from Silicon Valley. Great. Well, that was a great presentation. Thanks very much, Lori. So let's go to the other side of the table. Charlie, we'll put you on the seat first here. And turn the mic to yourself. Yeah.
This is a great idea. The timing is good. I would worry being in this space as a business that an established cloud storage service or anyone able to offer file storage somewhere out there is going to think of doing this as well. Nevertheless, I think you're well-timed and well thought through. I'm going to be a...
Whoa!
7. You went up a point here. It's also inherent in a lot of the platforms now, right? So for, if you think about the major platform providers like Android, Google with Android, or Microsoft with SkyDrive, or Apple with iCloud, they are kind of trying to weave that same
The established competition is formidable.
Yeah. Michael?
Yeah, I think it's pretty intriguing that you guys are integrating the social elements, and you're not just looking at it as a series of repositories, and you're trying to give people a lot of control over how they're able to store their data. I'd be interested to know, since you talked about it as not just a consumer product, but also as good for businesses, what kind of security is implemented. Not all providers provide encryption for data at rest, for example. A lot of them are just in transit, and some details about that would be something I'd want to know about if I were considering putting business documents on there. But I think it sounds like a great idea, so I'm going to do 8 again.
8. All right. And so, Tom, is this something that's interesting to you?
Yeah, actually, I mean, particularly as someone who's just had realized that solid-state drives are not really recoverable, syncing and backing up is...
You're worrying me because I use a MacBook Air, which is all solid
I use a
state.
MacBook Air that died recently, and it was gone. It's not coming back, and it was the one... I didn't have many files on it, but it was the one thing that wasn't backed up. So I'm really into sync at the moment, and the... would even be a potential customer for the product, but I would have wanted to hear a couple things. One, do you provide a user provided encryption keys as opposed to company provided encryption keys? And 2, can you do any backing up to local services or local devices rather than the cloud as an extra sort of assurance? Just because having a cloud backup sometimes isn't what you want if you were trying to pull back several gigabytes of data quickly, you want to have it locally. So it's, some questions like that, but in principle, I think the idea is great. I would give it a 9.
Good job. Well, before we ask Lori to respond, so theoretically, you've got your MacBook Air back?
Yeah, well,
reinitialized.
You've got the computer back. Right?
It,
Oh, you reinitialized it.
And I'm hoping it's not going to fail again. And I now am running a constant cloud backup
service.
service.
And which one did you pick?
I picked Crash Plan just because it was something that I had already in place, and because it lets me also replicate to local devices.
Okay. All right.
And also that it has essentially unlimited data storage. I mean, I have like hundreds of gigabytes to put in there.
So Lori, we lied. We said we're going to give the 24 seconds to you from the previous presenter from Anthony, but we're not. You have 30 seconds to respond.
So obviously this is a really hot space, which means a lot of the big players like Google and Apple and Microsoft are in the market. SugarSync is not aiming to compete really on a mass basis. We want to have a highly differentiated product, great ease of use, great security, and I think that there's room for a premium service for savvy users. Security is critical. We do encrypt our data at rest. We do not yet have the private personal key encryption, but that is coming. But we do take data security very seriously, and most importantly, our business model does not hinge on using users' data.
Oh. All right, we gave you three extra seconds there. Okay, well, Lori, thanks very much for joining us. Good luck with SugarSync. Yep. Okay, so I would like to thank our judges, Tom Claiborne, Michael Endler, and Charlie Babcock, reporting for InformationWeek.com. If you want to see any of the work that they have done in the past or are about to do, make sure you tune in to Information Week, and you can find all of the work that they've done there. You can even search on their names and find their stuff, and then you can also connect to them on various social networks to find out more about the stories that they're writing every day. So Fritz, now comes the most fun part of the program. This is where we get to give away a really cool gadget, a really cool device. We've been giving away Kindle Fires, but we've changed gears here. What are we giving away this
Well,
time?
I couldn't steal the Samsung Windows 8 tablet from Greg, so we're going to give away this iPad Mini. I don't know if you can. It's kind of a small box.
Yeah, it's very small. That's mini, all right. I actually haven't seen the box. This is the first time I'm seeing it. So giving away an iPad Mini to some lucky member of our online audience who registered prior to the show to win the prize. And so who is that lucky member?
The winner is William Murphy. So William, we will be sending this lovely box that actually has an iPad Mini in here to you shortly after the show.
So that's great. So yeah, we have all your information already. That was the benefit of registering, is we get your information so we can send you a cool prize. And if you want to find out more about our next show, which we'll be taking a break during the holidays, and we'll be coming back in January with Valley View, maybe in hopes of winning a prize, you can go to informationweek.com/Valley View register. That's where you can input your name and address, and we'll remind you of when the next show is going to come up. So, for Information Week's Valley View, I'm David Berlind.
And I'm Fritz Nelson. Happy holidays.
Thanks for joining us.